Yeah, and the average person will spend 5 years and 4 months through the entire life on social media, also include the Facebook. So when we spend a lot of time reading the message from social media, watching videos, and making decisions, and spend money on the certain kind of online services, do we really believe those number of reviews, stars, and clicks, and so on? Yeah, can it be cheated? So actually, there's a report from 2016. There's a company called WebOps, who is the ad fraud detection company. So they found that there is a group of people named MathBot who creates 300 million fake reviews every day and earning $5 million every day from them. So it's a very big issue right now. So as a data miner, so what we should do? So today I'm going to propose our solution on the fraud detection, which make a holistic use of multiple signals. So we call a HoloScope, and it makes use of some connectivities and the temporal spikes and also the reading deviations in our dataset. So there's a whole overview of our solutions. So in the peer review data, we can see if the density, the fraudulent density, become lower, and also we still our algorithm HoloScope HS and also can achieve a better accuracy in the low density area. And if we include more extra information like temporal information and rating information, we can also furthermore put the accuracy to the very low density area, and also it's much better than the competitors. And also we test our solutions on the online system called microblog system in China. It's Twitter-like Weibo, Shenghua Liu. So in that data set we found more accurate frauders, which is improved 60% and 60% than the competitors. And about the scalability of our algorithm, we are almost linear to the number of edges, so we have a good scalability. So let's look at our algorithm in detail in the following way. And first of all, I will introduce some background and problem. Actually, online activities is actually influence the business. Say users make decisions about which to purchase and where to eat, to live. And also the recommendation of news and videos from Facebook or YouTube. And also the merchants will pay for the advertisement and some commission fee for the sales, for the number of sales. But all of them relies on the number of sales, number of clicks, likes, and the number of stars in the reviews. And before going to the problem, I will show you how we represented the data into a graph in our problem. So first of all, we just choose two sets of nodes, which is users from Amazon, Yahoo, YouTube, Twitter, and also the objects. The objects can be products, restaurants, videos, posts, and messages. And the edge between those two set of points, two set of nodes will be in the rating, purchasing, and the click, like, and retweet some messages. So in that way, we can represent a general application of data into a bypass graph. And the users we also call the sync nodes, and the objects we also call the source nodes, and also the objects are called the sync nodes. And also with the bypass graph, we can represent into a GCC matrix. We can put the users in the rows and objects in the columns. And the number of each element means how many times they are the interaction between the two parts of nodes. And also, for each edge, we can associate some properties like what time the edge is created and the number of stars belong to the edges. So with that kind of representation in graph, so our problem can be defined as given the user objects and timestamp and the number of stars, we try to find a group of suspicious users and objects. Our goal is to optimize the metric of suspicion is from the topology. Topology means the connection between the two sets of nodes, and the reaching time, the time stamp they create edges, they make the connections, and also the scores, the number of stars they gave to the objects. And definitely we also, to generate our problem, we also allow some missing of the elements, like we can missing number of stars, timestamps, and even we can only have a user objects. It's the basic setting of the whole problem. So next, I want to talk about why do we use a graph to detect the frauders instead of use other informations. So I will talk about the graph-based fraud detections the previous working about. So first of all, because to answer the question why we use the graph, because the content can be easily cheated by some NLP technology right now. So because some professors from UCSD, McLaughlin, and Yuri Laskovic, so they claim that they can create some indistinguishable views as people do. So the NLP technology really can help them to generate indistinguishable reviews for them. And also the other condition is that the content is not available generally sometimes to analyze the data. And also for the graph can represent, as we talked about previously, the graph can represent the user give reviews, score to the objects, and user click a link and review videos. And those kind of information cannot be avoided by the fraudsters. If they want to give some fake reviews, they want to cheat some objects. So, and also in that kind of graph, the dense block usually are very suspicious. Like this graph, it's probably there's a group of users in the rows and who is want to cheat in the group of customers of the fraudsters who pay them to make some cheating reviews. So our problem on the graph can be translated to the density detection, dense block detection problem. So let's look at how to define the density. Intuitively, you can use the volume density, which means the number of non-zero or the weighted non-zero elements in that block of areas. So what's the problem without the volume density? Suppose we give this kind of example. We suppose fraudsters have a number of counts, A, and his goal is to click B objects who pay for 100 times. This is their ultimate goal. So the density will be B multiplied 200 over A multiply B. In that case, the volume density will be 200 over A. So we found that there is no relationship between the B. So that means our limit B does not increase the density. So it will be a very bad metrics for the volume densities, for the density block detections. So the other, some of the existing works, they propose to use the average density. The average means arithmetic average or geometric average. In the average, they can have those kind of equations. From this equation, we can see if the B increasing, the whole average degree and the geometric, no matter geometric or arithmetic, they will all increase. So that will be limit their the customers, the fraudsters can serve for a certain time. Because if the fraudsters reading too much objects, they will create a very high average density blocks. And I also want to introduce a very simple and intuitive heuristic algorithm to detect the density block. So first of all, we know we have the adjacency matrix. We input the adjacency matrix, and we want to the users and the objects into one set, input the x. And for the algorithm is very intuitive. We can see those figures. For each time, we just choose either column or row that have the minimal degree. The minimal degree is the number of rows or columns, the sum of number of rows or columns. And we just remove those columns. Let's say we found the minimal column here, and the matrix become narrow. And the next step, we find another minimal one. It may be the column or the rows. Let's say we have a rows, so it's become shorter. The matrix after we remove those rows, and we just iterate those algorithms, and finally we will find out one by one adjacency small matrix will stop our algorithm. And during those process, we just keep some set of x, which has the best average degree of our algorithm. So, and then the algorithm return the x best as the dense block. Actually, the algorithm is very simple, but it have a theoretical boundary because it can be proved that the gx best should be larger than 1/2 of the g optimal. And also, if we borrow some priority tree, and the algorithm should be almost linear to the number of edges and some logarithm of number of nodes. And this work is done by the Arizona, the SWAT in 1960. And also the Grant Hui, one of our co-authors, applied them into a backup graph. Okay, so what's the problem they use such kind of algorithm in the fraud detection? Actually, we have some observation that the most popular products are less suspicious because some like the Justin Bieber, there's a lot of users will retweet message from Justin Bieber, so it will be less suspicious if they have a very high popularity. So in the frauder, we just mentioned as KDD 2015 by Grant Hui, they propose to penalize the popular objects in the whole graph. So they just use the degree, the number of degree here, the number of column degree for these objects to punish the ways every edge connect to these objects. This kind of why use the logarithm is kind of the idea borrowed from the document IDF, TF IDF, if you're familiar with that. It's the logarithm, inverse of the logarithm. And so the average degree we just denote as a G log X will be the average degree of the penalized edge weight. They also provide some bound for the frauders. They said their conclusion is that if the frauders want to create some frauder, some size of M0 and 0 block of block for the fake reviews, and they can only create less than those number of edges. So this algorithm just cannot bounding the frauders to create no more edges. Yeah, this is the work done by the frauders, the Grant Hui in KDD 2016. And and all of them are previous work. So what happens if what's the disadvantage of the frauder? Just we mentioned before, because first of all, I want to introduce that there is hyperbolic communities usually exist in the real graph, because this is the theory real graph. We visualize we reorder the column and rows. We visualize the graph, so we can see that there is usually some users, they like a lot of beers. They give a lot of reviews to all kinds of beers, and also there are some beers are liked by many people, are very popular. So in that case, they will be there will be always forming a certain kind of hyperblock communities. And this kind of thing is a natural form in the real data graph. So what's wrong with the floaters? So if we just make it more clear, like this, and like this matrix. So the floaters we just introduced to penalize the popular objects. So even in those suspicious blocks, they will be penalized at the same way as the popular objects. So in that way, the floaters always detect such kind of area because they all being penalized. So they are seen equivalently between each other. They cannot differentiate. This is popular or is only retweeted by a group of people. Other people do not do that. So this is the one problem in the previous work.
Actually,
sorry.
You rank the user and the beer products.
Yeah, we rank
those ranking.
Yeah, we ranked, we ordered. And this is done by a program. Yeah, I think I will give you some link of this program. There is some research work to do how to visualize such kind of hyperbolic communities. Yeah, it's done by one of the PhD students of Christmas.
Actually, it's very similar to the 80-20 rules in the society, right?
Yes.
Most people just like a few branded beers.
Yeah. Most people
majority of people just have a special taste, right?
Yeah. Only few people have special taste. Yeah, exactly. Some rule like that. Yeah, if you are interested in this. Yeah, if you're interested in this work, I can give you the reference. And also the other challenge is that even if the floaters they have a larger number of counts, like A, we assume that A they have a larger of resources, and they also can create extremely low density area. So in that case, all the density-based algorithm will be attacked by the floaters. So in other way, we need to employ some more information, like the timing information. Let's say we do not let them to spend a very short time to create the fake reviews. We need to give the obstruction of the time they are using. We increase the cost of their timing and also the cost of their resources. So this is our goal. So if we consider the temporal information, the most intuitive way is to use a tensor. We put the user here and the products over here, and the time means and the number of scores into the other way of dimensions of the tensor. Here I just show the three-dimensional tensors. But the problem is that if we use the block detection algorithm we proposed previously, they only delete those rows and the columns and in each 3 dimensions to get the core of the high density core. But in that case, if we think there is a two-time series, two-time PDF for each object, for each way, So we can see that if the time series looks like this, they cannot differentiate those two parts because they only treat those column, those dimensions as the high density block. But in reality, that this PDF looks like more normal because some products will get popular slowly, and their popularity get declined also slowly. Very smoothly. But for this time series, it's kind of suddenly something get very popular in a very unique time, and suddenly the popularity will drop at some time point. Actually, this is the case that the fraudsters want to make money in a very short time, so they just rush into the system and to make fake reviews, and after that they retreat, they get out of the systems because the product itself is low quality, so there's no normal people to follow them up, to like click if it's click the videos, the no normal people to click the videos. So the number of the time series, the PDF time series will give a sudden drop if the fraudsters get out of finish their job. So it will be looked at this. Summation for the summary. In summary, our comparison of our HoloScope and the existing algorithm is from the scalability and also the camouflage. The camouflage means some fraudsters will connect to the normal products, like popular products, or randomly choose some normal products to make this camouflage of itself. Of themselves, it's called camouflage. And also a high community, which means if it can avoid the hyperbolic community we mentioned above. And also the spike-aware. Spike-aware means the time spike in the time series. So our algorithm, our solution can honor all those characteristics. Okay, let's look at some details of our HoloScope algorithm. So how do we solve the hyperbolic problem to avoid the hyperbolic community? So we just define some contrast distributions in the HoloScope. First of all, we also have the goal. The objective function will be the average degree, which just shows the previous slides. And then for the convenience, we define the number of edges from A connect to B as a function of FAVI. You can think it's a very simple function. And also there is some edge weights, and we can choose one if there's no prior information. So the contrast subdivision will be defined as a conditional likelihood will be given A, the object VI, how likely the object VI belong to the customer of A, which means the fraudulent object. So without giving a concrete information, so our objective function can be the expectation of the whole object, BAB. So it's that A plus 1 over A plus the expectation of all the objects, and also the expectation of the degree. It's kind of so from the figure we also can see that. Assume this is the A, and this is the number of edges A connect to VI. So the contrast probability will be decided by comparing those parts and comparing to other part of the users, the connectivities. So that's why we call this contrast distributions. And first of all, I will bring you to some simple case that we only consider the connections without some temporal information. That we call the HSR. In that case, we also call this topology aware because it only considers the connections in the graph. So in that case, the contrast distribution is we define that we defined in the last slides, we have the concrete formation. It's like we have Q alpha I. So alpha I is simply defined as the number of edges from A to Vi, and the number of the edges of the whole users to Vi. So this kind of can be interpreted like this. It can be interpreted like only the group of users A connect to Vi, and the other users seldom to have connection to Vi. So it's kind of contrary things between the normal users and the flossers. And also we choose the scaling function of the Bx of exponential function with the base b to make it between 1 and 0. And we also define some user substitution swarm. It's simply defined as the users A, how many connections of the A connect to the suspicious of objects. If they connect to more suspicious objects, the users will be more suspicious. So those is defined like this. So we can still use the framework of the heuristic algorithm we introduced previously. So we just give some minor modification of this algorithm. We choose for each iteration, we start from adjacency matrix, and we just choose the very least suspicious users, and we remove those users at each time. So each iteration we just move one row, and until the end we only have one row left. So also based on the algorithm, during the procedure we only keep the A star. A star, that means during those process the A star make our objective function achieve the largest one. And then we return A star as the flossers, and also the number, we can also put the number of we can also put output the suspiciousness of each object giving the A stars. So in that way, our algorithm can, because in this case we only punish those kind of objects, because in this bounding box, the objects here will be the contrast suspicions will be the different will be the ratio of this kind of weights over the total weights. So only for those kind of objects we give the punishment, and this kind of objects they seldom have punishment. So our algorithm can shrink the bounding box and into those accurate way to detect those suspicious box here. Okay, that is how we do in the topology only consider connections. So the next step we will see how we introduce the temporal information like temporal spikes. First of all, I will introduce how do we make the time series of each object. So remember we have a such kind of graph, bypass graph. And for each node objects, for single nodes, we have multiple sources connected to them. And in each of the edges, they have timestamps. So we use those timestamps, make a histogram of the signal. In this paper, we call the time series nodes, time series of the signals. And that means this figure will show an example of users retweet a message in the microblog. And we can see in this message, they have some sudden burst and sudden drop. So who made this kind of sudden burst and sudden drop? So we look deep into the users' behavior. We found there are two groups of users, group A, A1 and group A2. we found that group A1, which is the blue line, it always causes the burst when the whole time series got burst. So that will mean the A1 participate the causality of the bursts of the time series of these objects. But for the green one, the group A2, they're only growing slowly and dropping slowly. So in that case, A1, group A1 should be more suspicious than A2. So before we going further, we should define how do we quantify the burst and the drop. So we use some work called Sleeping Beauty. It's published in the PNAS 2015, and they give a really very simple definition of the burst. What their definition is that they pick up the very beginning point of the time series, and they pick the very largest point in the time series. We just connect those 2 points, and along those time series, each point of time series, they found a point who have the largest distance between those straight lines. So for this case, they found these points. So this is the equation. I think it's a very simple equation between point to a line, between the distance point from point to a line. So this is they call a waking point, and this is the bursting point. The highest point is also definitely, obviously, is the bursting point. So we can use the slope from the waking point to the bursting point, and also the distance between those 2 points to measure the burst. And also we extend their work to multiple bursts. We can suppose recursively find, okay, this is the other burst point, and this is the other waking point. And this is the third burst point and the first waking point. We can recursively find that. And also similarly we can define a drop point. Drop point, we just connect the end of point in the time series and the highest point here, and we find the largest distance along the time series. This point we call the diving point. So with diving point and bursting point, we can narrowing how quickly the drop is. So this is the recursive detection algorithm of bursting and the waking points. First of all, we including the whole time series. We just starting from the very beginning to the very end, and we find the maximal data point as the burst point, and we use the definition. We found a waking point, and recursively we just move after we find the waking point here, we just remove a little bit forward, and we input I and J into another iteration, recursive iteration. So finally, we will find all the bursting point and the waking point. And in the same way, we can also find the dropping point, the diving point, and the bursting from the bursting to the diving. And we can recursively, in this case, we can recursively find the distance with have the most maximal distance drop in the recursive way. We only return the maximal drop in the recursive way. So with that kind of definition, and remember that we gave the example of group A1 and group A2. So we want to measure the 2 solutionists of those users. We also employ our framework of contrast solutionists. We just define those contrast solutionists as phi I with the function of phi I, and phi is the capital Phi TA, capital Phi TU. Capital Phi T is actually the number of edges from T. T means TA means the user, the time series from users A. TU means the time series from user U. So we can see for each, we just calculate how many of the TA number of edges from A just located into the bursting period. And also we weighted by the slope of the bursting and the distance between the waking point and the bursting point. So yeah, this is the slope from waking point and bursting point. And this is the distance. So we weighted by distance and we calculate how many edges from A are located in this between this time period. And the sudden job, we remembered when we define FAVI, we use a pair, sigma and GI here. So we can put the sudden job into the sigma GI, which means how many in the sudden job you're here in the sudden job, how suddenly the job is means it's also multiplied by the slope and multiplied by the distance between the diving point here and the bursting point. And we just make them feed them into our object function. And intuitively we can consider those informations. Okay, what's the benefit of we doing that? Okay, theoretically we can prove that if the fraudsters want to create a number of want to create n edges to their customers, they must spend the time more than in this equation. So this is the total time they must spend without create a suspicious spike and drop. Here the delta t is the size of the time means. Here the time means, slide time means. And S1, S2, we assume that it's the normal products, which is the inclined slope of the normal products and the declined slope of the normal products. And the CM is the highest point between them. So let me spend a little time to give some proof of our theoretical bound. So first of all, the improvement is very easy. The proof is very simple. It's because if the fraudsters want to be very normal incline and decline, so they must along those normal slopes and decline along the normal slopes. Because if they want to burst at first and go slow a second, this part will be exceed the normal slopes. And if they want to go slow and go fast later, so this part will be exceed as well. And the similar things happens when they go in decline. So in that case, we just calculate. So the area under this triangle should be larger than n. Why larger than n? Because there should be some normal users who connect to those fake products. So let's assume the n prime is the total number of reading edges the fraudsters want to create. So the number of edges should be the total number of edges should be larger than n. This is the total number of edges, and it should be larger than the edge the fraudsters want to create. And without some algebra, we can derive our equations. The tau, the time here between from beginning to the end, they must be larger than the square root of 2n delta t s1 plus s2 over the s1 multiplied s2. So in another way, we create some time obstructions. We increase the time cost of the fraudsters want to create some fake reviews. So in the other case, we try to talk about how we make the holistic use of all those signals, topology, temporal information, and also the rating scores. First of all, we define the topology awareness of Rphi in the very beginning slides. And also, we just define the phi I as the temporal spike signature. In the third way, we can also define the rating deviation. We call the chi I, which chi is actually the KL divergence between the edges from A and the edges from U, and edges from U minus A. It's look like this figure. So this is the users from A, the rating users from A, and the green one is the rating from the U minus A. So we can see they are quite different ratings. So the users A try to giving a high score to these products, and the rating and the grade rating similar flat or a little bit prefer to low score of the products. So that will be capture the KL divergence between them. And for the contrast subdivision we just use the joint probability here. Yeah, we make the probability as a joint, simply way to do that. And we we feed the contrast information into the whole objective functions. So for the algorithm part, we can also use the same algorithm framework. So let's see how much time it will be cost for this algorithm. First of all, we want to find the burst and the drop points for each signals. For each signals, find the burst and the dropping points will relate to the linear to their degree. So the total number of the cost will be the linear to the number of edges. And this kind of thing is being done once without iteration. So before this algorithm 3, we just finish finding the bursting and dropping point for each object, and we store them into the database. And then in the algorithm, we just feed them in. So in this algorithm, we can see first of all, we want to build a priority tree. Priority tree calls the priority tree of all users. So it's called M0 log M0. M0 right now is equals the U number, the size of U, the size of total users. And in the for loop, and in each loop, we need to update the contrast features when we remove our users. So it will be called the DU times that size of A. And we need to update the priority tree because we update the features of some kind of users. So it will be called the DU times A and times log M0. Log M0 is the total number of users in that matrix, but in that priority tree. So in that case, we consider the loop. In the loop, the number, the size of A, the shrinking each loop they shrinking one, they deleting one row. So the total complexity will be the summation of J from M0 to 2, and this is the size A, and this is the degree of the nodes in each iteration. And also we need to multiply log M0. So the total number of complexity will be M0 multiply the size of the edge and the logarithm of M0. But we can see A0 equals the total number of users. So the complexity will be U times number of the total number of users times total number of edges, and times the logarithm of the number of users. So it will be very super small because it's a super quadratic number of nodes. We know that if you a very large graph, if the algorithm is exceed the square of the number of nodes, the algorithm will be very, very slow continuously. So we need to figure out another way to do our algorithm. So the main idea is quite simple. We just feed a small group of users into the algorithm 3 instead of we call it U tilde. Instead of we feed the whole algorithm, the whole user set. And this kind of algorithm makes sense because we know that in the real system, the number of processors should be a very small ratio of the total number of users. So we can just use a singular decomposition of those adjacency matrix, because singular decomposition represented the connectivities of each node. So what we are doing is that we just make left singular vectors, and we just choose k singular vectors and feed into the algorithm. And what we feed, we just truncate each singular vector and only use the maximal sum, the top singular vectors, and make it as U-tutor, and we feed U-tutor into the grid shaping algorithm, which is algorithm 3 we talked about before. And in that case, with several counts of iterations, our algorithm can include the global best A star that have the maximal objective function. So I will show you why this kind of things can decrease the complexity of our algorithm, which can be actually the subquadratic U square, little o, which means it's less than the number of less than the square number of nodes in the complexity. And we need to satisfy these conditions. The U-tutor we just truncated before will be the U1 over epsilon. And epsilon is larger than 1.5, between 1.5 and 2 over 3 minus epsilon 0. Epsilon 0 is the exponent of the nodes and edges. So we know in complexity network, the epsilon 0 always between 1.2 to 1.6, something like that. So this is the improvement. This is the proof. The proof is it's also very simple. And our goal is to find, if we have a U-tutor into here, we want to find we want to estimate how many edges in the M0, which is which decided by the number of users from group of users from A0. So the total number of edges, we can think about this one, because we assume the high density area is in that A0, in group of A0. So we assume that A0 has the similar number of nodes the processors want to create. So in that case, we just treat this area as the fully connected area. So it will be M0 squared edges. At the other part of those subgraphs, we assume they have the similar density as the whole matrix. So this is the average density, and multiply M0. This part of x, and this is this part of x. So the total number of edges E0 should be, if we just input our assumptions, is U 2 over epsilon plus 1 over epsilon minus 1. So the whole algorithm, the shaping algorithm we're talking about, will be looks like this. So therefore, we can use some algebra. We can find that epsilon must be larger than 1.5 because it's 3 over epsilon, and this kind of larger than 2, so 2 over 3 minus epsilon. So the complexity, in that case, the complexity should be less than the U squared, the next size of U squared. But I want to remind you that the epsilon is actually have an upper bound of 2. Why? Because if we just use 2 here, this will be 1.5 U to the 1.5, and this one will be U to the epsilon 0. epsilon 0 is the number of the edges. So if we just give epsilon as 2, means we just truncate the singular vector to the square root of number of users. It will have a very good capacity, which is number of edges. But in real life graph, and the epsilon 0 always less than 1.6, something like that. And we can limit our U tilde is truncated by 1 over 1.6. And in that case, the whole algorithm will be subquadratic. So let's look at, after I introduced the algorithm, let's look at the experiments. So in the experiments, we use several data sets, which is the beer reviews, Yelp, and Amazon category data, and some Amazon mixing data. Those data are from those publication works. As we see previously, we mimic the frauders to inject edges. Because in fraud detections, the mimic the frauders makes sense because if your algorithm cannot detect those mimic frauders, so that means if the frauders use the strategy you mimic, they can attack the whole system. So in that case, we can calculate, as we said, we can have a more accuracy measure from between 0.8 and to 0.125. And also, if we include some extra information, we can also achieve some good accuracy in 0.033. And for the whole data set, we define two metrics to measure the whole performance of the algorithm. First of all, we introduce some AUC. AUC here means the area under the accuracy curves. So in that case, the AUC, if they have higher AUC, the algorithm will have higher accuracy. And also, we define the lowest detection density, which means we want our method can detect high accuracy density, which is the density the method can detect is a very high accuracy, which is more than 90%. So in this case, we can see is 0.033 is the lowest detection density, and the detection density is 0.92. And this is the whole matrix. This is the whole results of our algorithm and baseline. We use some Amazon D2 crossbar, which is based on the tensor method, different tensor method. So we can see that for the accuracy, we almost achieved the ideal accuracy, which achieved the best, but sometimes we achieve the ideal accuracy in our testing case. And also the detection density, we can make it as small as 0.0143, which means if the frauders if the frauders have 200 accounts, if the frauders want to make each object being clicked by 200 times, and they need 14,000 accounts to do that to avoid detecting. And also we highlight our algorithm in the real data set, in the online real data set, with the real label. It's 2.7 million users and 1 million messages and 15 million edges in the whole data of December 2013. And we can see that our algorithm HS here improve about 30% and 60% of the compared to the baseline algorithms. And what we are labeling, how we labeling those data, because we just make the union of all those results output from the methods and we crawl from the website, we found some users are removed from the system. So they are being labeled as suspicious users because the Weibo, the Xinlang Weibo, the microblog website, they have their own manually detection of fraudsters. So they remove that, we use that label. So we give that accuracy. And also our algorithm have linear scalability of the number of edges. So in conclusion of my talk, the HoloScope actually detect the fraudsters on the user object timestamp and then stars. And they make a unification of signals at topology. We can avoid the hyperbolic community and the spikes, and also the rating deviations. And the theoretical analysis of fraudsters, we just increase the timing cost of the fraudsters to let them to spend more time to make the fake reviews without being detected. And for the effectiveness, we show our results, and also we have a linear scalability. Okay, for the more information about this work, we just we submit to KDD 2017. The results haven't been come out yet, but we have the archive version. We put it online, and also we open our source code, and you can try our algorithm. And this is the whole references I use in this talk. So I will stay. I'm visiting the CMU. I will stay until the end of this August. This is my contact information. And also, very glad to have some highlights on the HoloScope on some more data from the real systems, if you have some kind of interest. And also, I welcome any discussions, co-joint research on the graph mappings. Okay, this is one of the author, Brian Hui, and this is Christoph Tobias. Thank you.
Questions? I know for Amazon, if you want to make a very good review about some object, you need actually to buy the product, right? Mm-hmm. They set some labels for the review.
Yeah.
Maybe so. If I want to manipulate the review information on Amazon website, how am I gonna supposed to make a fraud review under this kind of constraints?
Actually, you're right. Amazon they doing that. Actually, they also have some way to make fake review because the product setting, the merchants, they buy the fraudsters. They buy the fraudsters, so I sell this product, like I sell the pointer.
Yeah.
So I want to employ a company, a fraud company to make fake reviews of this pointer. So I just intentionally sell to them online, I make some transaction online, and give them a very good deal, or maybe the money is just transferred to their account and transferred back. So they are the buyers of these pointers. So the fraudsters can, as a buyer identity, to make the reviews, give the number of stars. So they are being together. So I employ them, so I can fakely sell them products, and then they come back to fakely give the high score reviews of these products. So in that way it's be possible, but Amazon also have some mechanism to limit to following the sales of the things. So this become very serious in eBay because they have also some kind of work on eBay. There's a lot of fake sales. They do not really sell their products. They just do fake sales, make the number of sales become larger and larger.
And in this kind of graph from user to object, can you detect which kind of group of users are actually owned by one real people or group or some kind of
real
organization?
company, maybe fraudster company, fraudster company.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if they are owned by only one organization and they maybe have some very similar patterns to do this kind of fake review, right?
Yeah, exactly. But the fraudsters, yeah, they become clever and clever. They may have some strategy, make their account behave diversely. They also have some studies on the data. They can also make some strategy to avoid doing that. But one thing is that if the fraud, how do I know if a group of fraudsters belong to one company? Is because usually the customers who want to buy the fake reviews. I mean, the customers who want to buy fake reviews, they just they will assign to the company, sign a contract, and they will put some accounts to make the fraud reviews to this group of projects, to this group of objects. So in that case, the density block, it should belong to the same company because they have the similar actions to give fake review, to give some suspicious reviews to the same group of products. Otherwise, if we can also remove those density block and we run our algorithm again, maybe we find another group of users retweeting, giving fake review to another group of users. So it may belong to another group of fraudsters. So we can iterate using our algorithm to detect multiple dense blocks. If we detect one, we remove this one, and we run our algorithm again, and we detect another.
Here you are using some information about the timestamp actually for human beings, right? And they have a very unique activity patterns. For example, someone using a cell phone, right? And the duration time distribution for a person, maybe based on Power distribution or Weibo distribution, or can this kind of information can be used in your algorithm to improve the performance of it? Have some actual information. For example, you make some statistics about the duration time of the burst.
Yeah.
And maybe some folders can make their activity very diverse, but statistically speaking, they may be not aware about the real pattern of human beings, right?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, actually we don't, because actually it's a good idea. We can analyze the user aspect of behavior, but in this algorithm we only consider the product part of the behavior because this time series belong to one product, one object, and many users between these products. And also in another way, I understand, it's maybe a good idea. It may be a good idea we consider the user part of the patterns. Like this user may have some strange behaviors to give some views, connect to some products. Yeah, actually we also did some.
Maybe you have 81 term in your function and.
We can add to it's a good. Actually you remind me. We can actually add to the user suspicions, right? We can add to the user suspicions for the user patterns.
Yes.
Give some weight. Actually, we also do some experiments. We found some users, they do quick things. They just here. Yeah. Yeah. From that way, we can obviously we can find that it's a robot, it's a program, it's manipulated by some program to doing the reviews like this. But actually, most of the main of our work is focused on the group of users. And this kind of pattern can help us to find the individual suspicious users. Any questions?
The questions need to thank the speaker again.
Thank you.